So thank you everyone who's joined in. There may be some who may be struggling with traffic, food, kids, links, mood, or pain and anger. Okay. But let's just allow everyone their own space. And let's hope that they will join in their own sweet time. In the meanwhile, let's just settle down, close our eyes, and come out of the past and future so that we are here. One of the easier ways to get back to the here and now is to observe your breath, because the breath is only here and only now. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asatya to Satya, towards what is true. Tamas se Jyoti ki taraf, from darkness to light, and from death to whatever, being out of the cycle of death, or being out of the fear of death, or feeling that there is a continuity that lies forever. So that is what our invocation today was. Before we move ahead, let's allow Charu to give us all a little intro about what is Lolipo and what is the purpose. And then we'll go ahead into today's session. Over to you, Charu.
Charu, I guess you are on mute.
We've been struggling because we all are sitting in the same room. So mute, unmute, mute, unmute. I'm so sorry. Happy Diwali, everyone. Since from last 1.5 months, we have been having this series of pain and anger on Instagram. And this session, we thought of, having it just to elaborate on those emotions. Now, let me talk about what is Lolipo. When we started this series, it was just like as a one-liner for Instagram, for exploring emotions and transfer. I don't know. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Pooja? I'm so sorry for this interruption. Pooja, please mute yourself. Thank you. Okay, so I was talking about what is Lolipo. We started as a series of one-liner on Instagram, exploring emotions and their transformation in our daily lives. And now slowly we are turning into a space where there is an exploration of love through our various, through these all various emotions which we go through. And the purpose of Lolipo is to find love within and beyond. For when life is full of love, it becomes a poetry. This is what we believe. Of course, you all will add up all your views and this will become more richer. So I think we can start. I would like to, ask Rajat to elaborate more on this and then add few more points.
Okay, so I think that's a fair bit of introduction, Lolipo. The idea is to observe the love in our lives and see if there's poetry around it, or use poetry to express that love. Right. Um, Before we actually go into the session, let me quickly share these two disclaimers. First is we are not masters of anything. We are only somebody who can walk along, share our journey, share your journey. And with this mutual observation, mutual sharing, we believe that maybe it becomes easier to walk this path. And there may be some who would have experienced one dimension a little more, one dimension a little less. So we learn together and we keep walking and we unravel these mysteries of life. There is another disclaimer. Just because we are talking about how to manage the cycle of pain and anger does not really mean that we have been able to overcome the whole cycle and get out of it. As early as this morning, I was in the same loop, and hence, I think it is going to be a fairly long journey, and it's extremely tough to completely get yourself out of this cycle of pain and anger because it is attached to every small thing that we associate ourselves with. Long and short, we are still in the same cycle. As much as you, as much as me, as much as everybody who partners the Lipo. And the idea is to share, the idea is to observe and keep walking. So, by the way, since we are talking about anger, I had long back written a poem about anger, which Charu is going to display for all of us, and I'll try and read it out. So we are going to display it on our website, which is lovelifepoetry.com, and I'm going to read it out. This is about anger that was there in me at one point of time. But please excuse the poetic exaggeration of anger. Poets do have the liberty. Charu, if you can please put this to full screen mode. Okay, so there goes the poem for today. The devil in me. The devil in me sleeps, a slumber of ages, waiting for the dark to take over life, for him to unleash anger, hatred, and abuse, to mess up my mind, render my life to no use. It's all fire that comes as I hail a mouthful. I burn the world around me, all that I hate, all that I love. He rides and races on my nerves, with blood boiling to an acid that shakes my body and gives me shivers. I like the way the weaker world quivers. He wages a war against my own creation. I cut, I kill, and I plunge into destruction. I break hearts and rape my relations. I become a savage with thoughtless actions. This is what I was going through at some point of my life where there was so much anger against people, system, I don't know, so many things, all repressed. And when layers of that anger, got deposited one above the other, the day I wrote this, it was feeling like as if I meet today, I'm going to commit at least minimum one murder. Thankfully, I didn't meet anyone, I think. But this is what we are talking about. Now, since the whole format is discussion and discussion is always mutual, the question we are posing today is, do we know when and how a small flame turns into a big volcano? Right? And we are obviously talking about pain and anger. So whoever wants to share, let's all try and um, co-explore this together. How does this happen? From a small event, small incidents, small happening, how do we go to a stage where anger builds up? Uncontrollable anger. Who would like to share? So in my view, there is never a huge thing that happens at once. We never explode in anger about something that has happened for the first time, or that's maybe very, very rare. What is happening in our daily lives? Or at least let's observe that there are some things that make us angry over and over again. Similar stuff. And every time, it's not like just because I have been through that situation or that thing, I will not be angry the next time. Some things make us angry over and over. Has any of you gone through that phase of anger, experienced that anger? And have you observed, or would you want to kind of put a cross counter question to us saying that that doesn't happen? Okay, I think what we can do is we can go into a story. So some of us have already, I know some of us have already gone through this story, but we're going to look at it only from the point of view of anger and pain. So we'll show you a clip. This clip is this has been taken from a well-known series that was um, telecasted long back. It is from Upanishad Ganga. And we are talking about Valmiki, Maharishi Valmiki, but not after he became Maharishi Valmiki. So we are talking about this great personality that a lot of us remember. By the way, for everyone, Maharishi Valmiki is assumed to be the author of the great epic Ramayana. Okay. But the story behind this guy is that before he became Maharshi Valmiki, he was a dacoit, or he became a dacoit for some period of his life. Now imagine this transformation. Whoever this author, I mean, even somebody who's written a a little 100-page book, because I haven't even written that. So I have a lot of respect for people who could write a book. But imagine somebody who's written something that has lasted at least 2000 years, right? I don't know how far behind it goes, but if that is the amount of time that his writing has lasted, and before that he was a dacoit, his only job was to stop people, scare them, loot them, if needed, kill them, right? So there's nothing worse that somebody could have done which this guy was doing. Let's pick the story up from this space where this person was doing the worst possible stuff to strangers. All right. So what did you feel? What did you observe? Anyone? What is the one thing that, oh yes, your karma is yours and yours alone? That that realization when it hit Ratnakar. Wow. So we could see that he truly believed कि मैं जो कर रहा हूं मैं वो इन सब के लिए कर रहा हूं. But nobody was ready to bear the consequence. Not even the consequence. It's a deep thing anyway. Let's just observe. Hello. Why did he become a dacoit? So from what it seems like, he's not a he was not a dumb guy. He was not a bad guy. From what it seems like. And why did he become a dacoit? My observation on that has been something that I have been able to relate to and observe in many people. Many people around me. They may not have become dacoits, but their behaviors have changed because of similar reasons. Has any of you observed that in you or in people around you?
I would like to say something. Actually, as we are talking about pain, anger, if we see this episode, we see that uh, before this we were talking about a small, small version of anger which we normally go through every day. So when I saw this episode, I realized that whenever it starts with a small trigger. It is all up to us how we nurture that thing. Do we really nurture that trigger? If we nurture it, then it becomes volcano. If we Of course, because in this, yeah, it started with that anger that he initially felt that, he wanted to, he did something correct, and then he was, you know, he was addressed by the king that this is not correct, and he was punished. So that anger against the king actually made him revolt. So, somewhere the same applies to our regular life. Whenever we get angry, we try and justify our anger for ourselves. Of course, uh, and we don't actually reflect back that why this anger has come. We don't ask questions to ourselves. So there's some things which I felt that, we should, uh, this is what overall my observation is still right now. If anybody has any other observations, please, with this the session, the platform is open for everybody to, discuss.
So if anybody has felt pain or anger lately, you can go back to that moment and observe, why was I feeling angry? Because that is our starting point. Okay, this is where we start to observe. Only then do we even have to observe, right? Because while we are talking about pain and anger, you don't have to create pain and anger to observe it. If there has been pain and anger, or one of them, that's the time that the observation. Yes, Karan Paji,
Yeah, I would like to say something.
please.
Yeah. So what I was, it's my own thoughts, it's my own research that we actually have an agenda for this life, and this agenda is not, like we are making every day. It's actually pre-planned. The agenda was already scripted even before we are born. So what happens is we actually plan to experience some of these emotions. Like I would like to experience happiness, joy, and maybe pain and anger. So our role was very limited there, that we need to experience and witness them. As long as it remains within that control, we actually get hold on the situation. Uh, Things start turning around when we think that I'm the controller, and then somehow I want to manipulate that situation, that I can control the situation. And when one want to control the situation, that's when these triggers come up. And these triggers actually are from mind. So when I say, when I want to control the situation, that's the mind. And mind has various weapons, or you can say various uh, naughty uh, friends which comes up. So it's not from this one life that we accumulated pain and anger. It's from our past life. And in this life, we either want to balance them or we want to experience them. But since we don't have that awareness, so we end up messing up more. And then when we show our anger and our pain, we actually accumulate more of it. And then we end up, getting into another life. So when one introspect deeply into the life, that how it goes, maybe then one can understand, okay, it's my own creation, I have to pass through it. And then if you resolve one such issue and reflect on it, that it was my own creation, and without getting into pain and anger, I have resolved it, that one experience can teach you a lot. And then maybe in future you can uh, look into it and pass by.
Superb. I think you've not only hit the nail on the head, but you've hit it so hard. I think that's absolutely um, relatable. And I think it is this observation and at least the start of this observation to complete that observation end to end is another big thing. But have we at least started observing? Did we observe once? Did we observe in a small framework? Are we even aware? Or, like somebody just mentioned, meat. Yes, okay. Sometimes denying reality, exactly what Karan Paji was talking about. What is the reality? Again, a deep question, but are we denying the simple facts of what we are feeling? Meet, would you like to share about anything about this particular aspect that you're mentioning about how denying of the reality, and what in your view is the later outcome of this?
Yes, sir. So what I feel is, with my personal experiences, is that the reality is what we actually see, what is happening in front of us, or what is good for us is what, or what is best for us. But then we keep on denying that, or because we want something to happen in a certain way, and that is not happening, which starts to infuse some amount of hurt because it is not happening in a certain way, and we keep on putting a label on it that ठीक है छोड़, it's okay, but at certain point when something triggers, when something else happens to someone else which is good for them, which we wanted it to happen for us, that time that triggers, and then there is an outburst of anger, is what I feel about.
And Meet, what do you feel when you start observing it?
Yeah.
How does it start to change? Or, the mere observation, what
Yes.
change does it bring in us?
So when we start observing it, the first thought which comes in mind is that you start accepting what it is about. Slowly, not completely directly we accept it, but we start to accept it, that it should have happened, but it's not. You have to accept it. I guess that is the thing which helps us to calm ourselves and not get more angered or angry, or be in that certain amount of pain or hurt.
Doesn't it also kind of just, I'm just again exploring with you, just doesn't it also give us a little bit of feeling that, okay, now I'm in a better state.
Yes.
I am able to observe my
Observe.
own
Right.
ability to observe somewhere also proves that for that small moment when I'm observing, I'm disconnected with the pain.
Right. True.
Because if
True,
you're
sir.
not disconnected, then I I doubt it's going to be
It's
possible to observe it.
it's still denying that.
It's still denying that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So when you start observing, for that small moment, you're disconnecting from it and you're starting this observation.
Yes.
And this is what, and I think what Karan was sharing before this is a whole very, very deep thing. But this is what he mentioned. We are here to witness some of these things.
Right.
this space of witnessing, I think that itself gives us power. It it somehow makes us feel that there is a possibility.
True, sir. True.
And we have one more comment. So there's a phone number here, so I don't know who this is, but unable to observe reality leads to pain. Hi, Jayanta, so good to have you. But absolutely bang on. This is my friend, my senior from Assam. He's he manages a very large team. So he probably would be observing this in himself and in many other people. And bang on. It's the uh, it is this observation that we are talking about, this witnessing. And I'm going to go back, hold on to Jayanta's message once more. It says unable to observe reality leads to pain and hence becomes angry. Oh wow. This is another chain that we were also quite intrigued by. That when there is pain, one outcome could be anger. So, as a counter theory, one root cause of anger is actually pain. Interestingly, we've had nobody today who is going to say, or who has at least till now said, no, that's not right. I have another example. If I was in the audience, I would have come up with at least one example saying, no, ये ठीक नहीं बोल. There has to be a counter view. You have to validate or say yes. I have a experience which is similar, and this is why I agree. Not just because you're saying it. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
I had a question actually that when we just saw the clip of Upanishad and in the end his wife says that आपका ये सफर अच्छा हो, ऐसा there's a dialogue, and we see that now there's a lot of pain because he thought that his family would be there in this journey, and now he is completely alone. So there might be pain, there might be definitely anger, but then now he is alone. So does this happen that in this journey we are always alone and that creates more anger, or how is it like? This is what I was feeling, that क्या सुख में सब साथ होते हैं, बट अभी जब ये खुद का जर्नी है, एंगर फील हो रहा है, पेन फील हो रहा है, तो are we supposed to only handle it on our own?
Who wants to add to or answer to Charu? Because I'm going to repeat the disclaimers. There are no masters here. We are walking along. So whoever, I mean, we've got Avnish, Mayuri, Chitrarth.
Hi, Rajat, Vijay here.
Yes, Vijay.
So,
Go ahead, Vijay bhai.
Managing your pain or your anger, for me, what I feel is you have to do it alone. Nobody can partake any of it. You have to be very cognizant of your actions, of how you are doing it, what you are doing it, why you are doing it, and you have to keep a very practical approach to life. Even though we have very good relationships, like with our family members, our friends, but what our actions are what define us. and we have to bear the consequences of all our actions. Nobody else is going to bear them for us. So that's the approach in life that if we take, I think we'll all be in a very much better space, and our relationships also will be very well managed. So that's how I live my life. That's why I'm not that I don't feel that anger or pain so often. There's no build up that I have. It may sound untrue to a lot of people out here, but I have been through a lot of ups and downs in my life, and I have learned it, and I've detached myself from all this impractical relationships, if you can say. So that's how I am in a very good space right now.
Beautiful. And for everybody, I can vouch for Vijay, and we can give you his details. He's a lovely person to meet. As in fact, we have, I don't know, we've got gems here. We've got Jayanta, we've got Karan, we've got Chitra, we've got Vinaya, we've got Upasna. Each of them, like each of them, if you meet Vijay, you will meet somebody who's in joy. And I know a lot of people are waiting to contribute. We'll go to Mehul first, and then we'll go to Vaibhav, who's asked a lovely question. So Vaibhav, we'll come back to you. Yes, Mehul.
So most of the time, whether it is joy or in pain or whatever, we are alone. That's what I feel. See, alone in the sense, it's what I see from my perspective. Uh, when others know it is only on the crossroads when we see other people. So they kind of just see a few degrees of what I am seeing, and that's where that pain is shared. Most of the time when we are taking the journey together, so then that pain, that vision is kind of similar, and that's where we say, I've shared a lot of things with my best friend or whatever, because you're taking that path for a longer time. And that's where the you can say the stories or whatever experiences somebody has, those are shared. So it's only on the intersection that you get to share things with others. Otherwise, more or less, the path is all on. From your born till you die, it's only the intersections that you kind of have. Say that, I have a lot of people. So if there are a lot of intersections, then there are a lot of people in your life. But more or less, you're all by yourself. Like the body, everything inside you, it's self-supported. There's nobody external to come in and say, okay, plug in and then take that. So that's what I feel. It's journey which is taken all alone, only because we are human beings and we can express and kind of remember for a longer time. Those interactions, those intersections is what we call our so-called relationships, or moments that we want to forget or remember. I think that's what my 2 cents on this.
Absolutely wonderful. And this is what I think most of us have mentioned here, starting with Karan, then Vaibhav, then Vijay, some of the comments. And I am also, again, trying to observe with all of you. Experience of any emotion within one person is always unique to her or him. So what a Vinaya or a Reshma will observe or feel within them, they can only express in words, and I can only try and perceive what they are trying to say. But my perception will always be based on my experiences. So when somebody feels I'm very angry, exactly क्या है उसके अंदर, I will never know. I am going to assume he is going through a similar feeling that I go through when I am angry. So all I'm doing when I'm listening to somebody else is I'm superimposing my experience, right? And yes, that definitely that's the beauty of being human. The most wonderful part is our expression today is fairly sophisticated. It's not like a, we don't understand what the other guy is saying. Yes, there are going to be unique elements to everyone's life. We would have all gone through easy patches and tough patches. Depending on the external environment and your own mindset, you may have felt deeply about certain patches of your life. But there is nobody in this world who has not gone through ups and downs. How deeply did you feel? And sometimes this intensity of feeling high or low creates either euphoria or trauma. And that, and I'm not saying we have to push ourselves to that space to observe it, but that is a very, very potent space to observe in others, because somebody who's in that space is, it's extremely difficult for him or her to observe themselves, right? Let's come back to Vaibhav's question. So as much as it is our responsibility to manage relations around and not create chaos and disturbance in other people's lives, is it not our own responsibility to manage our own happiness? Who would like to respond?
So yes, Rajat, Vijay again.
Yes, Vijay bhai.
So the essence of being happy or managing pain or love or joy, anger within ourselves, at the root of all this is expectation.
Aha.
It is purely and purely that the expectations we have out of a certain relationship, from a certain friend, from the boss, or from an employee, is at the crux of all this love, anger, pain, whatever emotion we may feel. So if you are able to manage your expectations, I think you will be the most sorted person.
Superb. I think this is the space where I would like to go back to this story. So we were observing Ratnakar, right? Did he dream of becoming a dacoit, a daku?
No,
Right? I hope everybody agrees. So he didn't dream of doing it. He was a soldier in the king's army. And the way that army behaved, the way the army uh, was doing whatever it was, perhaps did not fall into ethical conduct as per Ratnakar. And he had a feud, and probably he dropped out. And the way the rest of the society, anybody, by the way, has a counter view, or do you think my interpretation of the story is maybe needs correction? So I'm just sharing what I interpreted from the story that we saw. So he fell out of alignment with the society. And he says, I think there's a part where he's talking to this sadhu, this sage, who's basically Narad Muni, who we all love. Yes, Charu, go ahead.
Actually, what Vijay sir has just shared, expectation. But isn't it that every relationship in the world, we can't say that there is a relationship without an expectation. सिंपल सा है कि अगर ये मेरा कंप्यूटर है और मेरी कंप्यूटर के साथ रिलेशनशिप है और वो कुछ नहीं काम कर रहा है तो मैं डिस्टर्ब हो जाती हूँ. दिस इज नॉन लिविंग. आई एम हैविंग अ रिलेशनशिप विद अ नॉन लिविंग ऑब्जेक्ट. ओके, तो लिविंग ऑब्जेक्ट तो दूर ही रहा. तो whenever there is a relationship, there is an expectation, there is a desire, and that desire, there is a desire of fulfilling those,
Needs,
everything what we want.
needs of a relationship. You have to add. So Charu, what you said is really true. Whenever all relationships are based on need, and needs create expectations. So desire, needs, expectations are at root of all the various emotions that human beings go through. So when I said you have to manage expectations, so it's a very fine balance and literally difficult to impossible to attain for human beings. After all, we are mere human beings. When God couldn't do it, we are mere human beings. But this is what we have to strive for. Maybe, as you said, your relationship with a computer, if it doesn't work, we get agitated, distressed. Yeah, it happens with us also. But we have to keep it at that low level. Like if your computer is not working, you get agitated for 5 minutes, you're there, then it's gone. So the art of learning to let go and move on will what keep us in a good state.
That's true. That's true.
I think we have a lot of comments and sharing on the chat. Pranali and Weber, would you like to would you like to talk about what you're saying for everybody to kind of understand more? Weber, I think that's a lovely question. We'll come back to it. Let me read out. Pranali, are you there? Obviously, you're there because you commented. Would you like to talk or would you like me to read it out? Okay. I'm going to read it out. So, Pranali says it's all about our expectations. As we are human beings, we expect something from our loved ones, yes. But what hurt is our expectations. Over expectations. Over expectation. Okay. Fair. So I think she's gone one step ahead to define expectation and over expectation, probably something that she believes is beyond a particular benchmark. So she's saying इतना मैं expect कर सकती हूँ, उससे ज्यादा जब करती हूँ वो over expectation है, या मुझसे लोगों को इतना expect करना चाहिए उससे ज्यादा करते हैं तो over expectation है. But over और under तो हम किसी के लिए भी डिफाइन नहीं कर सकते. हमारी definition. So let's say I and Weber are having a chat, and if I expect Weber should look into me in my eyes, and Weber is looking somewhere there and thinking and still talking to me, Weber has no problem, but I have an expectation. Whether it is over or not, only Weber can tell me. So उसको side में भी रखें. And coming back to connecting to Ratnakar, connecting to what question Weber has asked, is it about having expectations or is it about over expecting or unfulfilled expectations? So over कब होगी? उसके पहले एक्सपेक्टेशन तो आएगा ही. राइट, फर्स्ट स्टेप तो आएगा ही, ओवर और अंडर का सवाल ही उसके बाद आएगा। अनफुलफिल्ड कब होगा? अगेन पहला स्टेप तो आने ही वाला है। अगर आपने कागज रखा टेबल पे तो आप उस पे कुछ ड्रॉ कर सकते हो। ड्रॉ किया या नहीं किया उससे दुख आ रहा है, या आपके कागज रखने से वो अपॉर्चुनिटी आ रही है दुख को? Yes, that's a lovely one, Pranali. We don't know each other's boundary, each other's capacity, each other's understanding, right? Vinaya, do you want to add? Please go ahead.
Uh, so in this discussion, so as Vijay sir has already pointed out nicely that the labels can differ, whether it's over expectations, it's under expectations. But I think in the whole situation, what we can do is we can work on ourselves, because obviously we are not knowing what relation we are talking about, and it is very subjective. So what we do after that particular expectation is not fulfilled will change the whole scenario. So if I, as sir said, if we learn the art of letting it go, then nothing like it. If we start understanding why was that expectation not fulfilled, where is that person coming from, then that relation might even grow much better. So I think what we decide to do and which part we decide to work upon will lead to a lot of other results in that situation. So that's what I wanted to share.
You're bang on, Vinaya. There's so much that I'm picking up from that comment. And I'm going to relate it to what we saw as the clip. And please feel free to say no. Hold on. I have a different interpretation. Okay, because whatever I'm sharing is just my interpretation. Remember the disclaimers. So my interpretation was Ratnakar, when he was a soldier, he had a set of expectations. This is how the army should behave. Whether right or wrong will again depend on his understanding, their understanding, whatever other events, other constraints the kingdom or the king or the head of the army may be facing. Point remains, he had a frame. This framework could not justify the actions of that set of people. And he said, okay, I cannot bear this anymore. I am going to cut off with this set of people. And then he extrapolated that to the whole society. Because maybe some others also, only his dropping out of the army itself would have, we're talking about long back. It would have been a whole family respect issue or whatever, and how can you drop out from the army? Or he became a vidrohi. I think that's the word he mentions. So for a vidrohi, there's no space in the society. Obviously, the king would have also said, I can't have a revolution. You can't rebel. So they threw him out or whatever. And then he chose to create the revenge cycle. Now, let's not go how, why, what. Let's just observe that initially there was pain, which turned into anger later, which took him to that extreme level of also being able to execute cold murders. Right? That as per all constitutions of the world is considered to be the worst act that a human can do. And this guy was able to reach that space just because his pain turned into anger, and his anger took over a large portion of his mind frame. Right? So his life was governed by that anger for that period. And like we were all saying, it boils down to a certain set of expectations he had from somebody. किसी के साथ भी, भले वो आर्मी हो. He had a certain relationship with that army. He had a certain set of expectations. And वो match नहीं हो गया. It created pain. Since it was intense, it got multiplied. It became the governing emotion of his life for a period. Now, I have two more things for all of you to observe. One is, if you have been through such phases, or are going through, or may go through in the future, first of all, please don't lose hope. Because imagine this person from that worst possible state, only by meeting one other person who asked him some very, very provoking questions, something that hit his core values, something that hit his core belief. Simply नारद मुनि के वो 4 सवालों से he was shocked out of that whole revenge thing. So there is obviously a way out. That is all my point is, that there is a way out. Now, Indian Shastras obviously give various ways for various kinds of people. So this may be one way, but it just proves that there is a way out. So all of us who are going through anger and pain, whether it is expectations, mismatch of expectation, whether we are saying कि मेरा expectation match नहीं हो रहा है, or somebody else has over expectations from me, I think it's all about this mismatch of expectation. The good thing is there is hope. Number one. Number two, then we go back to where it all starts. If we can observe anger, जब एंग्री हैं तभी नहीं, लेकिन एटलीस्ट जब ठंडे हो गए तभी तो बोल सकते हैं हाँ मैं गुस्सा था. And not blame anybody for it. Find out your own reason. Right? This is the important step. You were angry. Externally, you may do whatever, I don't care. And again, we are not preaching solutions. We are just saying that observe whether this can be done. When the anger is suppressed. And this is what also we said in our Saturday posts. Right? Lay down your arms. Go for a warm hug. And come back and observe yourself. Which is what Vinaya was saying. Which is what indirectly Vijay was saying. Which is what Weber was mentioning. Which is what Karan had mentioned. And I am saying, at least forget the peak of that intense emotion. After it has passed by, at least then can we observe. And then come back to this simple observation again and again and again, that listen, ये सब आया कैसे? I had an expectation, a desire, right? And I'm going to quickly have a look at the last few comments, which is number.
Rajat, can I just add
Yeah.
one thing?
Yes, please.
It's just an observation I'm being going through last few days. So as you are talking about anger, I feel that any emotion, when we are not able to express it the way we want to turns into anger ultimately, because that is the easiest emotion for us to emit. For example, any kind of fear, when you are not able to control it, or you don't know how to react to it, it turns out to be an anger. If you are very happy and you want to tell it to someone and you're not able to do it, you feel very frustrated or angry. So if we just pause when we feel angry and just try to connect to the source, from where is it coming, we can know where we have to work upon. So this is just what I have been observing in myself, people around me, and continuously coming to one point, that any emotion not expressed properly becomes anger. So if it might help you yourself to understand what you are feeling also at times, just to pause and think, why is the other person angry? There might be some other reason behind it. So both ways. So just wanted to share this observation.
Superb. So you're bang on, Vinaya, and I am 100% sure all of us will benefit if we can simply, switch on that observation mode.
Just want to add to it
Yes,
on
please.
your take on this Ratnakar's pain when he feels that when his expectations are wrong. What I feel is the way he reacted led to where he was in life at that stage. The path he took. So the very first step is our actions defined, as I mentioned earlier. So the way he reacted to that situation of pain, if he would have reacted differently, he would have introspected, or given himself some time before embarking upon, judging the whole world, he
True,
would
true.
have been in a much better place.
So true. And for that matter, Acharya Chanakya faced a very similar thing, right? Governance from the king of Magad was in complete chaos. Not as per what Chanakya would have expected a king, right? Maybe his conditions were different. He was not in an army or whatever, but he chose to react in a very different manner. Okay, he did not choose to rebel and take it out on the whole society. He chose to create the
Yes,
transformation he wanted
correct.
through installing Chandragupta Maurya as the
Yes,
next Chakravarti Samrat, not just the king of Magad. He ensured that it becomes Chakravarti Samrat. But that's a beautiful question. I'm going to come back to that. But even in this case, my only and my hope, my optimism lies. My optimism ignites with the story of Ratnakar, because Ratnakar is somebody who had fallen to the worst of his spaces. If that space, from that space, if somebody can come back and become a Valmiki, oh my God, is there, a, a huge, a more larger transformation ever that is possible?
no,
That's the only reason we chose this particular story, because it ends with a lot of hope. Right now, quickly, I'm going to take this one. Can we remove all the expectations without the purpose of life? Before that, Pranali was saying what I feel about anger is, when you get angry, take all responsibility of what you've said, how you reacted for that particular situation. Perfect, Pranali. I think from this discussion, what we all also get is, take that responsibility and also sit and observe why. What is the root? What was the expectation? And also to come back to quickly 1 second to Vinaya when she said, uh, all emotion when not expressed will flow into that pipe of anger. There could be one or two more dimensions where somebody doesn't go into anger, but they go into something else which is as intense an emotion but
It can
remains
be
fear
karuna.
alone.
It can be karuna.
It could be corona.
Extreme
And what
sadness.
happened in case of corona is extreme anger also, but there's an extreme fear dimension also that is observed in
Irritation.
human beings, right? So the pipes may be different, the intensity of the emotion is the same. Take responsibility, observe. These are beautiful things that we are getting from this discussion. Okay, disclaimers. We've not given any mantras to anyone. This is out of this discussion. Now the last question that we're going to pick before we move on to the agenda, because we are delayed on time and Charu has pinged me 6 times by now. Can we remove all expectation without the purpose of life? Wow, the only thing, large question. If I was readily able to answer it right now, I would have been in a different space, a different phase. If I could have said, yes, we can remove all anger without disturbing the purpose of life, then I'm indirectly saying that I know the purpose of my life and I have the capacity to remove all expectation. Now, that's a huge statement, huge, right? Expectation and desire is something which will go till the last point before Buddha says that X turns into Y, right? Till that point. So, hence, let's just stay with that for now. We have to now come back to when and how do we start addressing it. Okay, when and how do you start addressing it? There are small angers, small emotions, right? जैसे कि अभी किसी ने मुझे 6 बार पिंग किया और मुझे मन कर रहा है फोन उसको ऐसे ठक से मार दूं, but this is small. Maybe I can just मारा फोन और बढ़ गया आगे, खत्म, ended. Do you start to, do you sit down and observe this also? And then there are 100 things in the day that you'll have to observe. So this is my question to all of you, and at least 2 or 3 of you will have to answer. Otherwise, I'm not going home. So when and what do we start addressing? Upasana, don't laugh.
Upasana, you should answer it.
When and what should we start addressing? Yeah, that's the question.
So in simple words, do you start addressing every small emotion? Do you sit down and start observing every small emotion? See, we are talking about start. We're not talking about people who've advanced into their, you know, their phase of spiritual growth, let's say. At the start, yeah, please go ahead.
I think we have to observe, which I agree, but too much observation can take away the joy of life. At times we just have to be like all the emotions that are there, those are colors of life. Okay, without them, I don't see any meaning to life. I mean, if everyone is born with samadhi, then there is no need for a Krishna Leela, right, to happen. So we have to even create that balance कि कहाँ पे thought देना है, कहाँ पे नहीं देना, कहाँ पे भाई गुस्सा आ गया, अभी लैपटॉप नहीं चल रहा, गुस्सा आ गया, it is okay. mean, we can't sit and think कि क्यों गुस्सा आ गया. I mean, it's okay. But at times when it is hindering the relationships, yes, we may want to. We have to think what is, how long is it impacting? If it is not, then just let go. It's okay. That's fine.
So, anybody else, by the way,
Can
let
I
me
just
just,
add what to?
yeah, yeah,
I just
please.
want to continue her point. That's why.
Yes.
Um, as she said, all kinds of emotions are necessary in the first place. That's why they are given to us. So it's necessary to enjoy every kind of emotion too. But at what level is what we should decide. Secondly, as you are asking, when can we know or where to start observing? I would say the simple thing we can do is we can start from ourselves. If my energy is getting very fluctuated, or if I'm feeling very low or very high suddenly after doing something or after someone else is doing something, uh, then we can take it as an observation point for ourselves. That is starting point. Later we can build upon it as and when that awareness itself will take us where to go is what I feel.
Super. So, anybody else on, I'm turning the question on the other side now. I get the point that maybe all of us are trying to say that, you can't start analyzing everything that you're doing. Like I'm moving my hands like this now. I can't start observing कि मैं ऐसे ही क्यों कर रहा हूँ, ऐसे ऐसे क्यों नहीं कर रहा हूँ, right? Then my counter question is, which ones do I start thinking about? How do I know that this one is the one I should start thinking about? Or this is the one I need to observe? Do I need somebody else to come and tell me? Bolo, bolo.
Rajat, I
What?
think Karanveer sir has to say something. He has his hand raised up.
Okay, I thought early in the discussion he had raised his hand and he never lowered it down. So I thought, Karan Paji, please go ahead if you want to.
Again, yeah. I actually wanted
Please.
to say something here. The depth of the question goes to ichhaएं, meaning our expectation, right? And we actually cannot comprehend from where these ichhaएं come. Actually, these ichhaएं come from our thought. So just now, just before I began, I was saying that you were saying that how do we decide which thought we should take? Now, this thought is not our choice actually. These thoughts are actually uh, our own creation, which we call karma. Now, karma somehow want to confuse you with so many thoughts, but if you really introspect, you will choose the one which karma wanted us to choose. But we will have choices. Okay, one, two, three, four, five. But we will choose the one which karma wanted us to take it. Now, again, we can have our own tarak that how do we decide that? But then we cannot comprehend because our mind is part of universal mind, which is very big. And the way the way universal mind governs us, or the way universal mind operates, even a small ant has more choices than maybe sometimes our own mind has. The survival instinct in every creation is so intense that they can actually have better choices than us sometimes. So karma is the leading cause which one need to go in depth. If we understand the difference between karma and karya, which Arjun was actually finding difficult at Mahabharata, and then Krishna has to tell him that no, every karma is different and karya is different. One need to understand what is karma or nishkam karma, and then what is karya. So if we understand that, we will actually have a lesser thought process on expectation. Then the second thing I wanted to add is Sant Kabir he said that de dhare ka dand hai, meaning if you are in human life, it's a punishment. De dhare ka dand hai, sab kahe ko hoye. Now this answers to all of us. Now he says the next line very carefully. Yogi bhoge jaan ke. The one who is yogi, as Rajat was saying, that we are not in a stage where we can understand. The yogi bhoge jaan ke and bhogi bhoge roe. So that's where we are. We are actually crying because we don't know. So if we think that we can understand all this in a fraction of time, no. It's a journey which take time. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Wow. There is so much, so much, so much that can take us very long. I'm just recollecting one more thing that I was reading, very, very related to this. कार्य में, sorry, कारण में कार्य already छुपा हुआ है. It is the choice that manifests one karya out of the same karana. Anyway, the point is that these expectations are arising out of our own thoughts. This is what all of us are saying. These thoughts are also coming from somewhere, whether or not we have a choice or whether or not we can access that choice. Have we reached that stage where we access that choice? Or where we reach the stage where we are actually observing this space, that this is coming from here, hence I'm only going to witness, and let it be, right? So since we've crossed our time, we probably have to decide to take a pause somewhere. What we could do is, let's let's all close our eyes, and I am just going to try and summarize what all of us together have been trying to say. And this is not one person, this is not somebody preaching, there is no master. We had a discussion. We deployed our best understanding of life in order to discuss this and try and see where we get. Pain and anger is something that all of us go through. And we all agreed that pain and anger is coming eventually from unfulfilled desires. And if we can see the root of that desire, we'll be at a very different space. But in order to reach that space, we will have to start this observation. And we can't do this observation for every small thing of life. Life has to be enjoyed and lived in its simplicity. So, if I were to conclude, maybe, I'm just saying maybe, and each one of us can go back home and decide for themselves, but probably the one or two things that are troubling us most frequently or most intensely, probably those are things that we can pick up for deeper observations, frequent observations. And while it has to be lived individually, all your happiness, your pain, your pleasure, your anger, and anger will come as a sheet covering many things, whether it is shame, betrayal, sadness, pain, revenge, all will come as anger. But if we are to observe this, right, then forget the smaller things. Pick up the larger ones that are either repetitive, recurring, or very intense. And while the experience is individual, what collective discussion does is we create hope. We start seeing outside our own individual framework. That is how we expand our frameworks. That's the only idea of this session, to look at the same thing with various frameworks. What are some of the ways that some of the others have used, and chart out our own way. By the way, also, sometimes sharing what you are exactly feeling with a third person. The third person may not be extremely qualified, but this act of sharing alone with a third person, and if the third person is objective, he will bounce back, or you can bounce back a lot of stuff with any third person. This is how all coaching counseling works. If this third person is capable, then he has the opportunity to handhold us and to take us 2 steps further. That's how we choose our mentors and gurus and guides, and who can take us from here to the next step. Then maybe there's another guru, another guide, another platform, another person to take us through. So, as a summary, the large, more intense things can be picked up, observed, go to the root. There is no external reason. Look at your own expectations and desires, and do not lose hope. Thank you. This was the objective of today's session. I have learned a lot, and I feel very, very, very optimistic in my pursuit of a stabler, simpler, happier, joyous condition in life. You've all helped me a lot. We are going to create the same thing on this website called lovelifepoetry.com. We are going to contribute, and we are also opening up space for all of you to contribute in 2 ways. One is, let's say Reshma has put something, Meet can go and add his comments or feedback or notes or a related article or poem, so that the thread moves ahead. Maybe we can stop all the sharing. And okay, so the other way of contributing is you can start your own thread by posting your own feelings, articles, poems, whatever you've written. We've already, thanks a lot to Mehul, who's here. He has a firm called Story 60. Story 60 helps each of us build these platforms and create user interfaces and everything along with the website to all social media, and connecting everything and putting it back together, which I have absolutely no idea about. So many, many, many thanks to Mehul and to Tejal, who's been contributing a lot to our ideation to programming to who to reach out, how to reach out. Um, we will surely give you the website link. So please feel free to comment, like, add, link, write your own stuff, ask us questions. Eventually, we will try and see if we can form groups of people who want to stay connected periodically and walk together. Right? Walk together is the only solid fundamental. All right. So the website is www.lovelifepoetry.com. And the space that you will get to introduce your own writings is called Tera Asman. That's all we have today. If any of you wants to say anything, we're open. Charu, if you want to say anything.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for such a wonderful contribution. Actually, this space or this website and the things which Rajat has just shared, Tera Asman, we are already running out of time. That's why we just did not share the screen for the website. But yes, I wanted to show you how Tera Asman is and why Tera Asman. Because we all go through our journeys. And a lot of time, as we have already seen, that this is a very lonely journey at times. So this is a space, safe space we have built just to feel connected and to see that how we can be together and sail through. Sometimes we might get some support, sometimes we might have to work on our own. So we felt that this platform would help everybody including us, to inspire each other, help each other, and uh, you know enjoy our journey together. So Tera Asma would be a space where you all can share your views, blogs, poetries, anything, and that would be wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That's all. Done. Thank you.
Guys, maybe in the next session, we will um, take everybody, whoever joins us at that time, through this space and this website. We've eaten up a lot of time today. That's why we are ending right now. But also, every Saturday, we create a post that goes on Instagram and Facebook, which is around similar topics. And today was in some way a culmination of the last 7-8 posts, which we actually intended to show you. But since the discussion was so interesting, we did not want to break that flow. But you can go to Instagram and hashtag Lollipo से भी search कर सकते हैं. Otherwise, you can go to Charu's Instagram ID or my Instagram ID. My Instagram ID, by the way, is fun_with_Rajat. And Charu's Instagram ID is, Charu, can you please share your Instagram ID? So you can follow us there. And every Saturday you will have a post, and we will try and club some of the posts into a session every month, 2 months. And Vijay, for people who are not on Insta, it is also on Facebook. Now we are also in a couple of days going to link this to the website. So every 10-15 days, if you go to the website, you will get all that we've posted in those 10-15 days. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and making this a wonderful 1.5 hours